الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين وإذا قال الله سبحانه وتعالى قل هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات بيجي محمد وعلى Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, condolences on this sad occasion, the Shahadat and the Wafat of our sixth Imam, Rais al-Mazhab al-Ja'fari, Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salatu wa salam. And before I continue or start my tonight's lecture on the life of our sixth Imam, there are different dates that have been mentioned as far as the Wiladat and the Shahadat of our Masumeen is concerned. Indeed, in regards to our sixth Imam as well, obviously this is something which has come up in the books of history, and therefore there are conflicts as far as the aqwal and the narrations go. But the most authentic of the narrations, which has been adopted by many of our senior scholars as far as the mu'arrikheen and the historians are concerned, not from contemporary time, rather those who are in the contemporary time as well as those who have passed long ago, they chose this date to be more authentic than the other dates that have been mentioned as far as the Shahadat of our sixth Imam is concerned. So 15th of Shawwal in the year 148th after Hijrah is when the demise of our sixth Imam takes place. So indeed, obviously, there could be other dates where you might see different communities commemorating the Shahadat of our sixth Imam. Therefore, obviously, it should not be a point of amazed as to why someone is doing on the 25th maybe, because there's another date is on the 25th of Shawwal. Why are we doing on the 15th? In fact, the reality is the more zikr of Ahlul Bayt you do, the more rewards and the more thawab will be written on your records. So the more zikr that we do as far as the zikr of this Ra'isul Mazhab, the reason he's known as Ra'isul Mazhab is because of the fact that our fiqh is known as fiqh Ja'fari. And so inshallah tonight what I want to do, I have about 35-40 minutes before namaz maghriban, inshallah on time. It's around 7:42 the time of namaz. I will try and briefly go through different aspects of Imam's life. One in particular which is in regards to the knowledge that Imam was able to spread and what is the meaning of fiqh Ja'fari. We see that Imam alayhi salatu wasalam lived in a very crucial time as far as the history concerned. The ayat that I recited, both ayat, one which I recited on the first, which was in regards to that those who believe, fear Allah and be with those who are the righteous one. Kunu ma'as-sadiqeen. Here we see that this ayat unanimously is agreed upon by the mufassirin that was revealed in regards to all of Masumeen, especially in particular our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, and fifth Imam. And we see this is the laqab or the title that has been given to him as Sadiq, was something which was not given to anyone else but Rasulullah. So again, we have the discussion before. I'm not going to go into the discussion again as to why each Imam has this particular title. I think we've talked about it before. But you see, a person who gets this title, again, is according to according to the time that they're living in. This title was given to our sixth Imam, because later on there will be a person who was also of the same name. His name was also Ja'far, but was known as Ja'far al-Kazzab, because Kazzab is the one who lies. To differentiate our sixth Imam from that person, he was given the title of As-Sadiq. And the same way Rasulullah was given the same title of As-Sadiq, and also he was known as Amin. And the reason behind is that even not just the people who were the followers of Ahlul Bayt were referring to him as Sadiq, but even those who were the mukhalifeen, those who did not agree with Ahlul Bayt and Rasulullah at that time, were also acknowledging the fact that this person is Sadiq and this person is Amin. And that is the reality basically. When your enemy comes forth and agrees on the fact which the capabilities or the attributes that you possess, if a person comes and admits, even if that person is your enemy, then it really is the real deal. Otherwise, we see that there were many people who were given such titles, but they were not worthy of these titles altogether. So the time of our sixth Imam is very, very critical time. Critical in a sense that he spends 12 years with his grandfather, our fourth Imam, from 83rd year of Hijrah when Imam was born until 95th year of Hijrah when our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin's demise. Imam spends 12 years under the imamat of his grandfather. And then from 95 till 114, he spends those 19 years under the imamat of our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad Baqir. And then after that, his own imamat starts from 114 until the year 148 when Imam himself was martyred. Imam was poisoned and he left this world. In these 34 years, Imam ﷺ's imamat, which really flourished, that Imam got this opportunity which he held on to, and he was able to go ahead and propagate the religion, Islam in Ab. But this is where the question arises. The second ayah that I recited was that from Surah Zumar, verse number 9, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. That say, O Prophet, those who possess knowledge and those who do not possess knowledge, are they equal? Definitely this is a question which was being posed towards the people and not the Rasulullah, because Rasul is well aware of it. And then the reason behind it, because the last part of the ayah said, إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Those people, only the people of reason will take heed in this regards. And therefore we understand the two concepts of knowledge and ignorance was compared in Quran in many different occasions. Allah even compares the person who possesses the knowledge with a person who can see, as opposed to a person who's ignorant as a person who's blind. Allah compares, person who can see and the person blind in the same fashion. The person who can see, do you think is same as the person who cannot see as far as the knowledge is concerned? But obviously you could raise an argument that sometimes there might be people who do not have the eyes but possess more knowledge. That is definitely correct. But here Allah is just trying to give us a comparison so we can understand who really possesses this knowledge. So we understand the first period that Imam ﷺ is living. This is a time, a very critical time in the life of our Imam, that we see 12 different rulers come and went. So the government was shaking from the very beginning. One ruler would come, his demise will come. Another ruler will take over. Another ruler will come. This is where Imam was really able to excel as far as his opportunity that presented to him, and was to go about establishing this university, if you want to call it, where Imam trained 4,000 students, and we've heard that many times. And these were the people who were quoting from Imam, who were narrating from Imam. Even people like Imam Malik has said, or Khatib Baghdadi mentions also that there were 900 people in Baghdad who were narrating hadith from Imam Ja'far As-Sadiq alayhi wasalam. So this was the ability that Imam was able to utilize. All the Imams possessed this, but Imam had this time and opportunity to go ahead and excel in this regards. So when obviously 12 different governments are coming in and one is leaving after another, definitely there's no stabilization as far as the hukumat is concerned. So Imam is using this great opportunity. But the bed or the foundation was laid down really by his father, our fifth Imam, who was given the title Baqarul Ulum Nabi, the one who was able to split open the knowledge of Rasulullah. Up until this point, all of the Ma'asumeen were occupied in other things, because that was the time that they lived in and they had to deal according to that. But this was the chance was given really to our fifth Imam, where he was able to lay down the foundation for which our sixth Imam was able to capitalize, and he was able to go ahead and present the deen in the proper manner. We see that Imam always instructed his family members, although there were a lot of occasions that presented in front of Imam, to take part into politics. Obviously, when Banu Umayyah and Banu Abbas are colliding with one another in the year 129, 130, and this is where one dynasty is leaving, the second dynasty is coming in, this is where we see a lot of people said, why not go into the politics? And there were opportunities for them to go into the politics. Even Banu Abbas, we've heard this many times, the cry that the Banu Abbas had when they walked in, they said, we want to give the right back to Ahlul Bayt. We want to give the government back to Ahlul Bayt. It belongs to them, it's their right. But that was just the shi'ar, the slogan that they had used for themselves for their own purposes. But here we see that Imam is actually not stopping himself, but he's also forbidding his family members for taking part into political activities. Some very shallow thinkers of the time, and even today, some shallow thinkers taught that Imam or the Shi'i belief is that one should not take part into politics, because our sixth Imam is openly propagating against taking part in politics. Imam says, no, do not take part in siyasat. Stay away from siyasat. This is where people thought that Imam's duty is only limited to the walls of masjid. Imam should just come, lead the namaz, tell the masail, and then you should just go home. And nothing else is the responsibility of this Imam. This was a wrong notion that had developed as far as our imamat and masumeen were concerned. We see the reason behind that Imam is forbidding his family members to take part into politics were quite different. But if that was the case, and that was qaida kulli, a universal law, you would raise question as to why did Prophet possess the political aspect of his government as far as the religious aspect is concerned. He had both in his own arms. We would raise the question as far as our first Imam is concerned. In those last 4 or 5 years of his governance, Imam, it wasn't that Imam had given the political side to some other people, go ahead and take care of the politics and I will take care of the religious aspect of the life of the people. No. Imam kept both of these things in his arms, in his possession, because that is the duty of a ma'asum. Unlike other schools of thought that existed at that time, which said no, Khalifa is different and the Imam is different. And therefore we see the majority today follows the fiqh of 4 Imams. Who are those 4 Imams? Those 4 Imams is Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Malik. These are the 4 fuqaha of that time, which pretty much existed in the time of our 6th Imam. We've heard many ahadith or many mentioning of both Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik, that they were students of our 6th Imam. And if you look at it, and I actually heard this somewhere from a speaker, that he said, when you attend a school, when you attend a college, when you go take some course in school, and when you take a course by a professor, and if you like it, you say, it was a very good course. It's definitely you when you have learned something from it. And you want to adopt that thing. So for example, you took a course on Islamic history, let's say, in your college, and you really enjoyed it. That professor was very good in presenting this Islamic history to me. And so you keep what you had learned and you adopt that. You will never go ahead and praise a professor or a course which you hated and you just went through it dreadfully, saying that, I couldn't wait for it to be over. I was just looking at the clock all the time when the class would start and when the class would end. And you will never remember anything from that lecture, anything. Why? Because you did not like it to begin with. If we hear such a hadith from Abu Hanifa when he says, "Lawla sanatan lahalaka nauman," if it wasn't for those 2 years that I was under the tutelage of Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, I would have been perished. If he was talking about that those 2 years were very critical in my life, how come we do not see the implication of those 2 years in his fiqh either? To the extent that his fiqh was actually different, and not just different, it was some places opposite of what our sixth Imam was mentioning. Whereas he's the same person. When Mansur al-Dawaniqi, the Khalifa of the time, the ruler of the time, asks Imam Abu Hanifa to come and pose 40 different tough questions in front of Imam As-Sadiq, so that he would not be able to answer those questions in front of the people, and we would make a fool out of him. He comes, prepares, poses 40 different questions in front of our sixth Imam, and our sixth Imam gave reply to all of those questions according to all the fuqaha and the fiqh that existed. Imam said, according to you, this is the answer. According to that group of, fiqh, or that particular fiqhi group, or that particular religious group, this is their ruling on that, and this is the ruling on that. He gave answers from all the different fuqaha and the fiqh and the jurisprudences that existed, and this is where Abu Hanifa had to admit the fact that a person who's able to give the answer from all of the different sects that exist is definitely the person who's the most knowledgeable among you. Salawat Beji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so this is where the excellence of our Imam comes into play. That Imam is not only given the answers from his own fiqh. Yes, I could be mastering my own fiqh. But Imam is coming about and giving the answers from all the different fuqaha and the fiqh that existed at that time. And this was something which we saw. This was Imam who definitely had the knowledge of all the fuqaha. As far as even Imam possessed the knowledge of Christian religion and the Jewish religion and all the other religions that existed. Not only that, through Karamat, Imam had the knowledge to even speak to people in their own particular languages. He said, well, yeah, Imam had this sort of thing. We see that even in some of our fuqaha, this ability existed. No, none other than Shaykh Nurullah Shustari. He was himself, who was Shaheed Salis, buried in India. He, in his time, when he was made the Qadi of the time, when he was asked a question, he would also reply according to the different fiqh that existed. He said, what's your answer? This answer is through the fiqh of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Whenever he would pass a judgment of a Qazi, he was a Qazi, they were asking questions, he would say, this is according to Imam Malik. This is according to Imam Abu Hanifa. This is according to Imam Shafi'i. And this is according to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And this is according to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. And he would be giving the answers through all of the different fuqaha. And in the end, he was saying, while giving the answer from all of the different fuqaha, I was actually giving the answers through the fiqh of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat Beji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is where we see. Now, why was he given from Imam Ja'far Sadiq, but it was labeled different? Because they obviously have some similarities as far as our fiqh is concerned. Why? Because these two, the first two, are definitely the students of our sixth Imam. But what is the concept of fiqh Ja'fari? Where does this word come about? We know that the name of our Imam is Ja'far. One of the meanings, obviously Ja'far has different meanings. One of the meaning of the word Ja'far is a river of knowledge. And obviously this was the reason it was appropriate Isme ba Musamma that Imam was river of knowledge. And this was a river where people were able to come and ask their questions easily. Whereas all the our other Imams were also rivers of knowledge. But only some people were able to access those Imams. And then some people tried to exceed the Imam. What ended up happening, they drowned into those same rivers. Because this is also a concept of zarf and mazroof. There's a discussion of zarf and mazroof. What is the discussion of zarf and mazroof? Zarf and mazroof is, zarf means vessel. Mazroof is how much it can handle. So definitely if a glass which can only, hold 1 liter or half a liter of water, you pour too much into it, obviously it's going to be overflowing. So definitely this thing does not have enough to possess. It can only possess that much which can fit in it. More than that will be overflowing. And whenever something is overflowing, that means they're not grasping it. And that's what happened to a lot of people at that time when they were not able to grasp some of the things. And that is why very important for us to, when we speak, when we talk to different individuals, we got to realize the level that they are at. Rasulullah did not say this in vain when he says, كَلِّمُ النَّاسَ عَلَى قَدْرِ أُخُولِهِمْ. Speak to the people according to the level of their knowledge. Do not speak to the people about things which will go over their heads. And then also do not become so shallow that people say, well, this is something which is something which should be taught to the babies or the kids and the toddlers and whatnot. So this is something which our imams had the ability, whenever they would speak according to what the people were there. People came and posed different types of questions in front of Imam. Person came and asked Imam a question in regards to, can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fit this world into something which is, fit this world into an egg? I'm sure you've heard this story. And so Imam, when a layman asked this question, Imam's answer was different. When a person who possessed some knowledge asked the same question, Imam's answer was different. The person who was a layman, when he asked this sort of question, Imam said, yeah, close your eyes. He closed his eyes. Imam said, now open your eyes. He opened his eyes. Imam said, what do you see? He said, I see the sun. He said, do you know sun is bigger than the earth? He said, yes. He said, look, do you know that your eye is smaller than an egg? He said, yes. He said, look, Allah placed something which is bigger than the earth into smaller than an egg, which is your eye, and you can see the sun. So when you can see the sun, definitely you can possess something which is bigger than the earth. This was an answer to a layman. Imam was speaking, قَدْرِ أُقُولِهِمْ. This was the level of this individual. And Imam was speaking to him according to his level of knowledge. And that made him content. But then when a person who had some knowledge asked similar type of question, Imam would say, this is muhal. It is mustahil. It is impossible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do impossible. Raising questions, can Allah create something which is so heavy that He Himself is unable to hold? No. These are the questions which are mustahil, which are muhal, and impossibles is something which should not be coming from those who are ulul albab, those who take heed. As I recited the surah Zumar, ayah number 9, it says, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are those who possess knowledge and those who do not possess knowledge, are they equal? إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ ulul albab. Only those take heed, those who possess this intellect. Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so we see some of the imtiyazat, some of the distinctions of fiqh Ja'fari. The word Ja'far means river of knowledge. So Imam ﷺ is river of knowledge. Then why fiqh Ja'fari? What is the background of this fiqh Ja'fari? Just very briefly, I will go through this background, as obviously time does not give me the permission to go into a lot of these details. I have few questions from some of the munazarat that Imam had, and these are very interesting questions. If I have time, inshallah, I will discuss them at the end as well. But let's look at what is the difference when we call this to be fiqh Ja'fari. What is the root of this fiqh Ja'fari? Salawat bheji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We see that this fiqh Ja'fari is coming about in a time when there exist two different schools of thoughts. One is the school of thought which exists in Hijaz, which is normally known as Makkah and Medina. Another school of thought which was rising was in Baghdad, which was also another school of thought which was in Kufa and Basra and the surroundings of Baghdad. We know and we've read through the history that the government were controlled either through Hijaz, from Hijaz, or later on they were controlled through Baghdad, because a lot of the rulers of the time, they made their capital to be either Baghdad or they made their capital to be Hijaz. And it was either one of these two stations. It is only later on in the time of Mamun, son of Harun, that we see that the capital is moved towards Khurasan, and then obviously it shifts back and forth. But this is the time when, there exists a lot of population of Muslimin in Baghdad as well. So there are two schools of thoughts. One school of thought is in Hijaz. Hijaz is where Rasulullah came up in Makkah and Medina. He described, the fiqh, he described the laws, he described through his narrations. And the people who normally lived in this period in Hijaz, their problems had been solved through the ahadith of Rasulullah. This is where the emergence of akhbari comes about. When we hear, so-and-so is akhbari, what does that mean? You should ask a question. What does it mean to be akhbari? Akhbari is the person who believes only on akhbar. What does that mean, akhbar? He only believes in ahadith. He said, I do not need to do taqleed. I do not need to refer towards aql. I do not need to refer towards anything else. I only refer towards akhbar, and therefore he's akhbari. So today a lot of people claim to be akhbaris, and this firqa, if you want to call it, it's not a firqa, but it exists within the Shia circle as well. So a lot of people in present day Hyderabad, Deccan, and then in other areas, they call and they refer to themselves as akhbaris. Who are they? What are they? What are their beliefs? Their belief is everything should be referred towards the akhbar, the hadith of Rasulullah, and that's it. So you got Quran and you got hadith. Very good, very well. But is it enough for us? And this is where the question arises. Even in that time, in the very early days of Islam, our sixth Imam is born in the year 83rd year of Hijrah. It's only 70 years after the demise of Rasulullah, where we see there are problems which are coming about which cannot be solved through Quran and the Sunnah. Why? Because there were things. It's only 70 years. No advancement of technology at that time. Whereas when you look at the history of human beings, the progress that human beings have made in the last 50 or 60 years is equal to the progress that they had made in the first 7,000 years, if you compare it. In fact, they say even that is more than what they had done in the first 7,000 years. So this is the criteria. This is how they look at it. And therefore, people who are living in Hijaz, Imam Malik is in Hijaz. And they would refer to the hadith of Rasulullah. Any problem would come up, they would refer to the hadith of Rasulullah. And the hadith of Rasulullah had already solved their problems, because obviously when you're close to Rasulullah in that place, you're asking questions, a lot of questions remain, and Prophet was accessible and they were answered, and so they didn't have any newcomers, there were no non-Muslims coming in, there were no new people coming in and accepting Islam within the Hijaz area, and therefore there weren't any new problems. So akhbar was able to solve the problems of the people. Thus they became to known as akhbaris. They said, we'll only refer to Quran and Hadith, and that's it. On the other side, in Baghdad at that time, where Imam Abu Hanifa was there, this is where we see people of reasoning came. Why? Because a lot of futuhat, after a lot of conquest, there were a lot of people who were embracing Islam in the Ottoman, in all of this northern part of Iran, northern part of Hijaz and Arabia, and all the way to the Rome. A lot of people were accepting Islam, and so there were a lot of people coming in, and Baghdad was a place now, there were questions which are being raised, which are now unable to be solved through Quran and Hadith. That's the same case sometimes over here today as well. We do not find, a lot of people ask questions, Moulana, can we prove the concept of keeping beard through Quran? Can you show me somewhere it says that keeping beard is wajib? Why do our fuqaha say, having a beard is wajib? Now they have been lenient as far as their, fatwa is concerned, but people come up and they ask this sort of question. Those people who are reluctant in doing this act. But now a lot of people who have solid reason and valid reason, that is another story. But sometimes a lot of people who have just, their own opinions, they would ask this sort of question. And so they will say, well, can you show something in Quran and prove it through Quran? No, I cannot. No fuqaha, no mufassir will be able to prove that through Quran. So does that mean if it does not exist in Quran, we should also go ahead and raise the slogan, Hasbuna Kitabullah? The book of Allah is enough for us because we don't find something in there, we're not going to go ahead and do it? No. That is not the way it is. You have to refer towards the hadith of Rasulullah. Okay, Moulana, can you prove it through Quran? If you can't prove it through Quran, can you prove it through the hadith of Rasulullah? Sometimes there will be limitations as well. This is where we have adopted 4 methods as far as our fiqh is concerned. Fiqh Jafari we're talking about, so it is appropriate that we say, what are those 4 manabi'? Manabi' fiqhi are 4. One is Quran, second is Hadith. Yes, if something is found in Quran and Hadith, you do not refer to the third and the fourth one. That is clear cut. So if something is established through Quran and Hadith, you do not go to the third and the fourth. But there are a lot of things which Rasulullah himself knew will not be solved through, because as the time progresses, new problems will arise. And yes, although the claim is that there is everything in Quran, but the interpretation is where we lack. A simple law and the Qanun says, Quran is qat'iyyu sanad wa dhanniyyu dalil. What does that mean? The sanad and the authentication of Quran is qat'i. There's no doubt about it. Dhanniyyu dalil. But the implication or the interpretation where we have dhann, where we doubt, is it this or is it that? As opposed to hadith, which is qat'iyyu dalil wa dhanniyyu sanad. Complete opposite of it. You have problem in the authenticity of the hadith, but you don't have any problem as far as the matter of the hadith is, because the dalil in the hadith is complete. And therefore, I'm deviating from my past, so I'll go back. So the 4 manabi fiqhi is, one is Quran, second is hadith, third is aql, and fourth is ijma. Or third is ijma, consensus of ulama, and fourth is aql. So definitely if you do not find something in the first 2, you refer to the third and you refer to the fourth one. And this is where we see in the time of our 6th Imam, in Baghdad, they raised a group which says, we will look towards the reasoning. And they were placing reasoning in opposed to the hadith. This is where the problem was. Yeah, you accept the hadith, you accept the Quran alongside with reasoning, that would be appropriate. They said no. A lot of those things which were being solved, so that became the fiqhi madhab of reasoning. Whereas in Medina, it was the fiqhi madhab of hadith and akhbar. So there became ahle hadith and they became ahle ra'i, or ahle reasoning, or the people of reasoning. And so these were the 2 groups that were really becoming popular and famous at that time. This is where we see our 6th Imam does not stay quiet. He stands up. He takes a stand, and this is where he's trying to revitalize or revive the sunnah of Rasulullah by bringing back that Islam that Rasulullah had presented, the true teachings of Quran, by presenting it through himself. And this is why we refer to it as fiqh Jafari, where in reality it is the same fiqh of fiqh Ali, it is the same fiqh of fiqh Hasani, it is the same fiqh of fiqh Husaini, and it is the same fiqh of fiqh Muhammadi. Salawat bheje Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. And so this is where sometimes the deviation occurs as to, you believe in fiqh Jafari, you believe in the Imam of Imam Jafar Sadiq, and you believe in his fiqh. It's not that he was the one who originated this fiqh. No, it was just that at the time asked that Imam should go ahead and revive the teachings of Rasulullah, so that people, not the teachings were being changed by Imam, no. He was just bringing back the teachings which were passed from generation to generation through a ma'asum to another ma'asum, and this is why we refer to it as fiqh Jafari. Not to claim that Imam Jafar Sadiq, na'udhu billah, sat down and wrote a new fiqh and then came about, and this is what Shias around the globe are now following today. No, the reason we give it fiqh Jafari, because it was standing up against in the time when there was fiqh Maliki and there was fiqh Abu Hanifa. Salawat bheje Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. As I said before, there were few things as far as the Imam's munazarat are concerned that Imam dealt with at that time, and inshallah if I will mention a few of them. That one of the events that takes place, and this is, we see that 5th Imam also showed it, and he laid it down to our 6th Imam, that every time a person would come and ask something from our 5th Imam, he would refer to our 6th Imam. This was one of the methods to say, look, this is the person who you should be referring, and I'm grooming him from now on, so you should be referring to him after me. We see that in the time of our 6th Imam, one day he was holding on to, a asa and a cane, and this is where Abu Hanifa comes in. And Imam Abu Hanifa, when he comes in, he first looks at Imam and how he was leaning onto the cane. When he jokes about it in some of the narrations that he says, why do you need an asa? Why do you need a cane to stand up by? And then when Imam says, this is the asa of my Jad Rasulullah, right away Abu Hanifa comes close to the asa and, holds it as a tabarruk. When you hear something belongs to Rasulullah, then obviously you and I do the same thing. This is why we see that when we go to the shrines of Masumeen, it's not that we're worshipping them, but because the personality that lays over there, this whole shrine becomes mutabarrik for us. The same way Imam of Hanafis, Imam Abu Hanifa, when he hears that this asa belongs to Rasulullah, he's coming and kissing the asa, showing respect towards it because it belongs to Rasulullah. Imam looks at him and he says, you kiss and give tabarruk, or you keep it as tabarruk and mutabarrik to this asa which belongs to Rasulullah, but you do not have the same regards to the person who's nafs Rasulullah, who's the son of Rasulullah, who's the grandson of Rasulullah. And that is me. And so we see that the differences had been always there. And one of the events where Abu Hanifa began the concept of qiyas, and I'm sure you've heard it many times, but I just want to mention a few stories as far as how Imam was able to give some of the examples. And he said the first person who did qiyas was none other than Iblis. Awwalu man qasa huwa Iblis. And then Imam gives the examples. He says, it's not that Imam was contradicting him or anything. Imam was actually guiding him as well, trying to stop him. While stopping, Imam is giving guidance to this individual. Look, this is how you deal with it. And Imam gives examples, lively examples, so that he himself understands. Some of the examples is that Imam ﷺ asked him in this regard. Imam asked him, جو کچھ سوالات ہیں امام نے جس طریقے سے پوچھے، ان میں سے ایک سوال امام نے پوچھا کہ اگر تم عقل سے ہر چیز کو طے کر لو گے تو پھر مجھے یہ بتاؤ کہ خدا نے آنکھ میں نمکینی، زبان میں شیرینی اور کان میں تلخی کیوں رکھی ہے؟ امام نے ایک سمپل سا سوال پوچھا کہ آنکھ میں نمکین، زبان میں شیرینی اور کان میں تلخی. بہرحال تم ایک اپنے آپ کو امام مانتے ہو اور بعد میں تمہاری بہت بڑی فالوئنگ بھی ہے، تو کم از کم اس چیز کا جواب دیتا ہوں. بہرحال وہ قاصر تھے اس جواب کو دینے سے. امام نے پھر بیان کیا کہ آنکھ کیونکہ ایک چربی کا نام ہے، صرف چربی ہے آنکھ میں، اس لیے اگر نمکین جگہ نہ ہوتی اور نمکینیت نہ ہوتی اس جگہ پہ تو یہ جو ڈھیلا ہے یہ اپنی جگہ سے سلپ ہو جاتا. اس وجہ سے خداوند متعال نے نمکینی آنکھ میں رکھی ہے. اور جہاں تک کہ کان کی تلخی کا تعلق ہے، اگر یہ تلخی کان میں نہ ہوتی تو حشرات، چھوٹے چھوٹے کیڑے مکوڑے اپنی جائے گا اور پناہ گزین ہو جاتے اس کان میں. اسی لیے خدا نے تلخی رکھی کان کے اندر تاکہ وہ اگر کان میں گھسیں بھی تو فوراً نکل آئیں. اور زبان میں شیرینی اس لیے خداوند متعال نے عطا کی کہ تم چاہے اگر کوئی سی چیز کو اگر ٹیسٹ کرنا چاہو تو یہی زبان تمہارے لیے وسیلہ بنے تاکہ تم چیزوں کو آرام سے اس کی شیرینی کو ٹیسٹ کر سکو. اسی لیے ان تین چیزوں کو خداوند متعال نے ایک جگہ نمکینی رکھی، ایک جگہ تلخی رکھی اور ایک جگہ شیرینی رکھی. صلوات بھیجیں محمد وآل محمد پر. امام نے کہا کہ تم جب اپنی خلقت کو نہیں سمجھتے تو کس طریقے سے تم جو ہو خداوند متعال کے بنائے ہوئے قانون کو سمجھ سکو گے. اس کے بعد سے پھر امام نے سوال کیا کہ اگر اچھا یہ بتاؤ کہ وہ کون سا جملہ ہے کہ جس کی ابتدا کفر ہے اور انتہا اسلام ہے. تو یہ سوال تھا جو کہ یار ہم لوگوں کو تو آج کل معلوم ہے، لیکن اس زمانے میں امام ایک امام سے پوچھ رہے ہیں جو کہ بہرحال امام وقت ہے دوسروں کے لیے. کہا ستا اس تک کا جواب نہ دے پائے تو کہا امام نے یہ جملہ وہی کلمہ شہادت ہے جس کی ابتدا کفر سے ہوتی ہے لا الہ اور اس کی انتہا اسلام سے ہوتی ہے الا اللہ. اگر کوئی شخص صرف کہتا لا الہ تو وہ کافر ہے چونکہ اس نے خدا کا انکار کر دیا، لیکن اگر اس کے ساتھ فوراً کہہ دیتا الا اللہ تو اس شخص نے اپنے ایمان کا جو ہے ایک ثبوت دیا ہے لا الہ الا اللہ. صلوات بھیجیے محمد وآل محمد پر. اس کے بعد سے ایک اور سوال امام نے کیا جس کو علامہ دمیری نے بھی اس کو نقل کیا ہے، اور اس میں پھر امام نے دریافت کیا کہ اگر تم قیاس سے کام لیتے ہو تو یہ بتاؤ قتل بڑا جرم ہے یا زنا بڑا جرم ہے؟ تو بہرحال اس نے اپنے فقہی انداز سے بیان کیا کہ قتل بڑا جرم ہے چونکہ اس سے جو ہے انسان کسی اور شخص کی جان لے رہا ہے. زنا یقیناً ایک بڑا جرم ہے، قرآن میں اس کی حرمت آئی ہے، لیکن القتل اشد من الزنا، اور القتل اشد مختلف اس کی روایات آئی ہیں، تو کہا قتل یقیناً بڑا ہے۔ امام نے کہا اگر ایسا ہی ہے تو کیوں قتل کے لیے صرف 2 گواہ کی ضرورت پڑتی ہے لیکن زنا کے لیے 4 گواہوں کی ضرورت پڑتی ہے؟ جو گناہ بڑا ہوگا یقیناً اس کے لیے زیادہ گواہوں کی ضرورت پڑنی چاہیے، تو وہاں پہ کوئی جواب نہیں تھا۔ اس طریقے سے امام نے پوچھا کہ وہ جو حاجت لوگوں کو ہوتی ہے جب انسان واش روم جاتا ہے، جو حدث اصغر کہلاتا ہے، کہ جب کوئی شخص واش روم جاتا ہے تو اس کو صرف اپنے آپ کو پاک کرنا ہوتا ہے، لیکن ایک خاص حالت انسان کے اوپر طاری ہوتی ہے کہ جس کے اندر انسان کو غسل کرنا ہوتا ہے۔ امام نے پوچھا کون سی چیز زیادہ نجس ہے کہ جس حالت میں انسان کو صرف دھونا پڑتا ہے یا جس حالت میں انسان کو غسل کرنا پڑتا ہے بعد میں؟ تو کہا کہ یقیناً پہلی چیز جس کو صرف دھونا پڑتا ہے وہ زیادہ نجس ہے بہ نسبت دوسری چیز کے۔ میرے امام نے کہا کیسے ممکن ہے؟ اگر تمہاری فقہ کے حوالے سے اگر وہ چیز کم نجس ہے اور وہ دوسری چیز زیادہ نجس ہے تو ایک جو کہ زیادہ نجس ہے اس کے لیے غسل ہونا چاہیے تھا، ایک جو کم نجس ہے اس کے لیے صرف دھونا کافی ہوتا۔ کہا نہیں، اگر ایسا کر دیتا خداوند متعال تو انسانوں کے اوپر سخت ہو جاتا کہ جب بھی انسان واش روم جاتا اس کو غسل لے کے واپس آنا پڑتا۔ اسی لیے خدا نے کہا ان مع العسر یسرا۔ خداوند متعال جب بھی کوئی بھی کسی قسم کے فقہی قوانین کو طے کرتا ہے تو انسان کے حرج اور انسان کی مصیبت اور انسان کے کام کو مد نظر رکھتے ہوئے کرتا ہے، ورنہ اس طرح تمہاری اگر فقہ کو دیکھا جائے تو جو چیز زیادہ نجس ہے اس کے لیے غسل بنتا ہے، جو چیز کم نجس ہے اس کے لیے صرف دھونا نہیں بنتا ہے، برعکس ہے اس کے۔ اور پھر امام نے آخری سوال جو پوچھا وہ سوال یہ پوچھا کہ بہرحال خواتین کے کچھ ایسا وقت آتے ہیں کہ جس میں وہ نہ عبادتیں نہیں کر سکتی، تو یہ بتاؤ مجھ کو کہ نماز بڑی عبادت ہے یا روزہ بڑی عبادت ہے؟ کہا یقیناً نماز بڑی عبادت ہے۔ نماز کے لیے احادیث ہیں کہ نماز عمود الدین، نماز جو ہے پلر ہے۔ نماز کا یہ سٹیٹس ہے کہ اگر نماز قبول ہے تو کوئی اور ساری چیزیں قبول ہیں، اگر نماز قبول نہیں ہے تو کوئی اور چیز بھی قبول نہیں ہے۔ کہا اگر یہ ایسا ہی کیس ہے تو پھر تم کس طریقے سے یہاں پہ اپنے قیاس سے کام لے سکتے ہو کہ خواتین کو اگر اس ایام میں اگر نماز مس ہو جاتی ہے تو نماز کی کوئی قضا نہیں ہے، لیکن اگر روزہ مس ہو جاتا ہے تو روزے کی قضا ضروری ہے۔ اگر نماز زیادہ مہم ہے تو نماز کی قضا زیادہ لازمی ہوتی، نہ یہ کہ روزے کی، لیکن خداوند متعال نے اس میں بھی خواتین کے حرج کو اور ان کی مشکلات کو سامنے رکھا، چونکہ روزہ صرف اور صرف سال میں ایک دفعہ آتا ہے، 30 دن کے لیے آتا ہے، لہٰذا اگر وہ قضا ہو جائے تو اس کی قضا لازمی ہے، لیکن نماز چونکہ ان کو سارا سال پڑھنی ہے، اگر اس وقت جب وہ نماز نہیں پڑھ سکتی، عبادت نہیں کر سکتی، اس وقت اس نماز کو بھی واجب قرار دیتا کہ اس کی قضا ضروری ہے تو یقیناً ان کے اوپر ایک حرج ہو جاتا۔ اسی طریقے سے امام نے کئی اور مثالیں دیں جن کے اندر جانے کا وقت نہیں ہے، وقت بھی ختم ہو گیا ہے، کہ امام ایک کے بعد ایک مثال دیتے رہے اور سمجھاتے رہے کہ یہ دین ہمارا قیاس کا دین نہیں ہے، اس دین کو انسان قیاس کر کے پرکھ نہیں سکتا، سمجھ نہیں سکتا۔ بس یہی تھا کہ کس طریقے سے وقت کے حاکم کو امام کے وجود سے خطرہ تھا، اور اسی لیے بار بار کبھی امام کو بغداد بلایا جاتا تھا اور وہاں کوشش کی جاتی تھی کہ امام کے اوپر ایک پہرہ رکھا جا سکے تاکہ امام کی کوئی بات نہ سن سکے، تاکہ امام کو لوگوں سے دور رکھا جا سکے۔ لیکن بہرحال جب اپنے اس مشن میں فیل ہو گیا تو امام واپس مدینے آتے ہیں، پھر امام آخری عمر تک کے مدینے میں رہتے ہیں۔ مدینے میں جب امام رہ رہے تھے تو کئی بار کوشش کی امام کو شہید کر دینے کی، بالآخر جب امام کو زہر دے کے منصور دوانقی شہید کرنے میں کامیاب ہو جاتا ہے تو پھر وہ حاکم مدینہ کو یہ حکم دیتا ہے کہ فوراً جاؤ امام کے گھر پہ، اور امام کے گھر پہ جا کے جو بھی امام کا ولی ہے اس کو فوراً شہید کر دو، اس کو فوراً قتل کر دو، تاکہ امام تو گئے کہ گئے، ان کا ولی بھی اس دنیا میں نہ رہے۔ کتنی مشکلات تھیں، حالانکہ امام کسی سیاست میں حصہ نہیں لے رہے ہیں، میں ساری یہ باتیں پہلے بیان کر چکا، لیکن اس کے باوجود خطرہ لاحق ہے، اس لیے کہ کیونکہ بہرحال یہ اس خاندان سے تعلق رکھتے ہیں جس خاندان کے بارے میں خود رسول اللہ نے اس چیز کی پہلے سے پریڈکشن کر دی تھی۔ دیکھیے امام بھی کس طریقے سے، وہ قرآن کی آیت جس میں خدا کہتا ہے وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرُ اللَّهُ، وہ بھی مکر کرتے ہیں، وہ بھی پلاننگ کرتے ہیں، اور خدا بھی پلاننگ کرتا ہے، لیکن واللہ خیر الماکرین، لیکن خدا جو پلان کرتا ہے وہ ان تمام کی پلاننگ کے اوپر ہوتا ہے۔ کہا جا کے ولی کو بھی مار دو اور کہو کہ دیکھو کیا وصیت ہے امام کی، اور وصیت میں جس کو ولی پاؤ اس کو فوراً اسی وقت قتل کر دو تاکہ امام بھی نہ رہیں اور ان کا ولی بھی نہ رہے۔ جب والی مدینہ پہنچتا ہے امام کے گھر پہ، وصیت کو یافت کرتا ہے، دیکھتا ہے، فوراً دیکھتا ہے کہ وصیت میں امام نے 6 لوگوں کو اپنا ولی بنا دیا ہے۔ امام نے اپنے فرزند امام موسیٰ کاظم کو ولی بنایا، اپنے دوسرے فرزند افتح کو ولی بنایا، امام نے حتیٰ اپنی زوجہ کو اپنا ولی بنایا، اس کے علاوہ امام نے منصور کو بھی اپنا ولی بنایا، اور مدینہ کے والی کو بھی امام اپنا ولی بنا کے گزر گئے۔ جب پوچھا منصور نے کہ تم نے کیوں نہیں ان کے ولی کو مارا، کہا اگر میں اس وصیت کے اوپر عمل کرتا تو مجھے خود کو بھی مارنا پڑ جاتا، مجھے تم کو بھی مارنا پڑ جاتا۔ اس طریقے سے امامت کی رکھوالی کی، اس طریقے سے امام حق کی جان کو بچایا ہے امام جعفر صادق نے، تاکہ امام موسیٰ کاظم آگے رہ سکیں، ان کا آگے بڑھ سکیں۔ میں کہوں گا کہ امام کی شہادت بڑی مظلومانہ شہادت تھی، کسی بھی امام کو طبیعی موت نہ نصیب ہوئی، ہر امام کو یا قتل کر دیا گیا، یا زہر دے دیا گیا، یا شہید کر دیا گیا۔ طبیعی موت کوئی امام نہ مرا، کوئی اس دنیا سے نہ گزرا۔ اسی لیے دیکھیے امام کی مظلومیت اتنی بڑی مظلومیت ہے کہ ایک تو امام کو اس وقت جب شہید کیا گیا ہے تو ایک وہ مظلومیت ہے امام کی، اور دوسری مظلومیت یہ ہے امام کی کہ جب امام کے مقبرہ بن گیا ہے، امام کی قبر کے اوپر ایک مقبرہ، ایک سائبہ موجود ہے، تو اس طریقے سے آ کے اس سائبہ کو بٹھا دیا جاتا ہے کہ امام کی قبر کو انہدام کیا جاتا ہے۔ آپ جائیے دیکھیے کس طریقے سے وہ قبور کو منہدم کر دیا گیا ہے، ان کے اوپر اب وہ مقبرے موجود نہیں ہیں۔ میں کہوں گا مولا یقیناً آپ کے اوپر مصیبتیں پڑیں، یقیناً آپ کے اوپر مصائب پڑے، لیکن آپ بھی ابا عبداللہ کے مصائب کو سوچ کے اپنے آپ کو تسکین دیتے ہوں گے کہ جو مصیبتیں ابا عبداللہ کے اوپر پڑیں، جس کے لیے کہتے تھے امام لا یومک یومک یا ابا عبداللہ، جس طرح کی آپ کی شہادت تھی ارے کسی اور کی شہادت نہ تھی، کم از کم آپ کو دفنایا گیا، کفن دیا گیا، آپ کو احترام کے ساتھ قبر میں اتارا گیا، لیکن آئیے دیکھیے کربلا میں بے گور و کفن 3 دن تک امام حسین کا لاشا پڑا ہے۔ ارے حضرت سجاد موجود ہیں لیکن قاصر ہیں کہ بابا کے جسم کے اوپر کچھ مٹی ڈال سکیں۔ ان للہ و انا الیہ راجعون وسیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون۔ بار الہ ہماری اس بات قبول فرما، ہم گناہ گار ہیں، ہمارے گناہوں سے درگزر فرما، ہمیں اہل بیت علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام کے نقش قدم چلنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمیں ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمارے امام کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما، ہمیں ان کے اعوان و انصار میں شمار کر۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔